This monster could turn your entire D&D party into geese. It is a creature that can simultaneously be such a serious threat that it can define an entire arc of a campaign while also being the goofiest thing I've seen in a while. Today, we are going to be talking about the megoosa. We all know the story of Medusa, right? She was one of the 3 Gorgon sisters. The Gorgons can turn you into stone if you see their eyes. People get it mixed up and call all Gorgons Medusas. There's a metal bull in D&D called a Gorgon. The easiest boss in Enter the Gungeon is called the Gorgun. It's all very simple. And by simple, I mean needlessly confusing. So let's make this whole mess a lot simpler by adding the pride of Canada to the mix. The goose. The megoosa is like a gorgon, but instead of turning you into a stone statue, you turn into a goose. With its goosifying gaze, it can force all that can see its eyes to make a DC 13 wisdom save. If they fail, they slowly start turning into a goose. The victim rolls a D4 to see what part of their bodies get goosified. On a 1, your legs get shorter and your feet become webbed. You gain a swim speed, but your walking speed is cut in half. This would kind of look like when Deadpool only has little baby legs, but this would be more avian. On a 2, your head turns into a goose head. You get a beak attack, but you lose the ability to speak and cast spells with verbal components. So that heavily cuts down on what spells you can cast. That is unless you have the best spell in the game prepared. On a 3, your hands and arms become goose wings. You drop everything you are holding and lose the most powerful thing in a human's arsenal. Thumbs. It does give you a 15-foot fly speed, but this is still a nightmare scenario for a lot, if not most D&D characters. But the monks will be fine. If you are in this position, you will have to get really creative to try and make the best of this horrifying situation. And if you think that's too brutal of a debuff, honestly, that's fair. You can change it so you can still hold items, but all attack rolls are made with disadvantage, and the DC for the spells you cast goes down by like 5 or something, because you're probably worse at casting spells because, you know, no thumbs. Still a big debuff, but not as debilitating as no hands. And on a 4, you grow feathers all over your body. You have disadvantage on dexterity checks, including initiative checks, but you become more resistant to the cold. You know, when you have to follow losing the ability to use your hands, this doesn't seem that bad comparatively. Honestly, it sounds kind of cozy. Now these goose debuffs all seem manageable until you realize there is no time limit on these goosifications. These are permanent, and if a creature gains 3 of these transformations, they fully transform into a wild goose. Also, if at any point you make a wisdom save from the goosifying gaze and you get 5 or below the DC, you instantly and fully become a wild goose. Now, if you're not surprised, you can use your reaction to avert your gaze from the megoosa. But if you do that, you are approaching territory where this lady can hit you with advantage. She can attack twice, once with her great club and once with her goose hair that does 6d4 plus 2 damage. Goose tongues are aligned with sharp tooth-like structures, so getting hit by an entire hairdo's worth of them is going to hurt. Ouch. But let's say you fight a megoosa and you didn't really have a plan. You wing it, it goes south, and you take a gander at the goosa. You are a goose now. Get goosed, idiot. How do you ungoose yourself? Now there are 2 ways to reverse all of this foulness. One boring and one more adventurous. The boring way is the classic D&D magic cure-all, which is to cast Remove Curse, which is so incredibly lame. No check, no dice rolled, no struggle, no tension, no interesting story beat. Just spend 1 spell slot and you are done. Problem solved. I genuinely believe that the Remove Curse spell should be Thanos snapped from existence. Curses should be cool, and breaking them should be cool too. I don't want a one-size-fits-all type of deal. Make the thing that breaks the curse fit the curse that started it. And that brings us to the more adventurous option 2. You must go on a goose quest. A goose chase, if you will. You must adventure for a time as a Canadian waterfowl. So what is this quest, you might ask? How can I break this curse? To answer that, we need to understand why the megoosa is the way it is. The megoosas were once normal people, but they ran afoul of some creature that was part of goose kind. Some angered gods that really like geese, some made deals with dark beings who use geese as agents of chaos and destruction. Some used dark magic where the blood of freshly slaughtered geese powered their vile wizardry. Maybe that type of goose wizardry has a whole subclass dedicated to it, who's to say? The point is, these people brought harm to geese, so their cosmic punishment is to make all those around them turn into geese. All because they messed with a big duck. So to break this curse, perhaps a gaggle of adventurers need to be kind to the goose creatures of the world. Perhaps they can feed some delicious peas to a goose flare. Or maybe they ward predators away from the nests of a gooselisk. Maybe a goose was slaughtered for the purposes of a dark ritual. And you know, anyone could have done that ritual. We're all looking for the guy who did this. And that goose haunts the land as a poltergoose. This undead avian will not rest until you bring them the head of that wizard. Now, some of you might be thinking, hey, Bone Wizard, how the fuck do you expect me to behead a wizard? I am currently a goose! That is fair, but don't worry, this is all part of the goose quest. Perhaps after getting to know your form a bit more, letting the magic settle in, and with a smidgen of training, you've adapted your magics and combat style to your new feathery form. Perhaps your team temporarily changes their subclass during your brief stint as a bird to some more goose-themed subclasses. Maybe you're a fighter that jury-rigged some weapons customized to your new build, leaning into the nimbleness you have in the air. Maybe you are a wizard and adapted your magic to make a bag that can summon geese to toss at your enemies. Geese that you can also sacrifice to empower your spells. I have learned nothing from the megoosa. Fate did not smile upon her, but it does smile upon me. The blood of the birds shall bring a honking chaos, the likes of which the world has never known. And hey, when you finally break that curse and you return to your old body, maybe you choose to keep those goose-themed powers. I mean, I feel like the wizard would keep their goose powers. You don't start to sacrifice geese casually, you know? Some people are hyperfixated on stuff like Warhammer, and some people are hyperfixated on demonic goose rituals. Potato, potato. But what do you guys think? Would you throw a megoosa at your players? Would you send your players on a goose quest? Let me know in the comments. If any of the stuff I talked about in this video sounds interesting to you, then you might like the book I got all these ideas from, The Ultimate Honk Cyclopedia. Yes, that is real. I swear this is not a bit. I know I am like the boy who cried bit, but this is real, and the people who made it are sponsoring this video. This book has 12 goose-themed subclasses similar to the ones I talked about earlier. 45 new monsters await in these pages to honk at you, including Goosezilla, the Goosenado, and of course, the Megoosa. You can prepare fowlish curses to throw at your players. What's cool about these curses is that they have interesting ways to break them, so no one is punished for not playing a cleric or not learning Remove Curse. They make for perfect adventure hooks or something kinda silly to throw at your players. The time of the humanoids is over. The age of the geese has arrived. Peace was never an option. Get the Ultimate Honk Cyclopedia now on DM's Guild. Thank you to the Ultimate Honk Cyclopedia for sponsoring this video.